This EPL return and RBC Heritage edition of the Sports Gambling Podcast is presented by MyBookie.ag. Use the promo code SGP for up to $1,000 in bonus bets. Plus, deposit this week and you get a $10 free bet for the Belmont Stakes. That's MyBookie.ag, promo code SGP to play, win, and get paid. We're also brought to you by our SGPN College Football Tournament. We're simulating a real college football playoff that you can bet on. Games are live every Saturday and Sunday night in June. Go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/CFT for all the details. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/CFT. We're also brought to you by Ace Per Head. Ace is the leader in pay per head providers, and they make it super easy to start your own sportsbook. Plus, Ace is offering up to 6 weeks free over to aceperhead.com/SGP. That's aceperhead.com/SGP. Finally, we're brought to you by Cushy Dreams. Cushy Dreams is a new company with a full line of premium smokable CBD, now shipping legally to all 50 states. And if you use the promo code SGP, you get 15% off. That's KUSHY dreams.com, promo code SGP. Ooh, welcome everyone to the Sports Gambling Podcast. I'm Sean, stacking that money green with my partner in picks, Ryan, Real Money Kramer. What's happening, Kramer Dog?
Hello, Sean. We are here to talk about two of your favorite things.
Well, you're joking about one of them, but you're serious about the other.
I'm not joking. You have been very concerned about the return of EPL, Sean. I think it's fine if you want to pretend like you don't like soccer. I think it's fine if you want to point out that soccer has never caught on in this country. I think it's fine if you want to try to say that American football is better.
Yes.
But you, Sean, stacking the money green, Sim God, and DGen only, is so desperate for sports to come back. You want it to be the EPL.
It's gotten so crazy. I may watch some games.
And what you're gonna find when you dabble, when you dip the toe in the EPL pool, is you're gonna find, wow, I'm gaining a respect for how physical this game is. Wow. I'm gaining a respect for how much fun it is to gamble on these men who say words like fancy and fit. Come
Looking
on,
very
Sean.
fit out on the field. Kramer,
pitch.
You know who's fit? Our presenting sponsor, MyBookie.ag. That's right. Sports are back. Sports are dominating. Golf. We're going to be talking to Steve later. RBC Heritage. All the picks, odds, courtesy of MyBookie.ag. EPL action, you can find that all over at MyBookie.ag. And special to this week, use that promo code SGP. Not only do you get the sweet deposit bonus, but an additional $10 bonus in their race book. So free $10 to bet on the Belmont Stakes. You of course may recall me winning a shit ton of money on Country House.
And we've both been down that road.
Yes, we've had a number of huge wins horse racing.
I'll have another 18-1, I believe.
We've had some nice runs. So I mean, $10. You're thinking, what can I do with that? Throw it on a 50-1. I don't know, whatever you're. Throw a box, trifecta.
Can I tell a funny, quick horse racing anecdote?
Go for it.
Well, of course, horse racing is back. And this has nothing to do with our sponsors. No one's paying to, but we may have spent an afternoon with site editor Ryan McKee betting on some horses on a Zoom call, kind of having a birthday celebration.
Yeah.
And if you recall, I don't think I've touted this on the air, but I slayed it. I did the classic. Ryan is such a degenerate. He's betting he's betting money to the point where he's making people uncomfortable. When it's like, oh yeah, what did you just cash on that? And everyone's betting $1, $2, which is normal. It's horse racing. I may have been betting hundreds of dollars. So anyway, long story short, you were trying to find someone to write some horse racing material for the Sports Gambling Podcast, and it dawned on me, holy shit. I still have all this cash in my account. I knew if I took it out, I would never go back, but I left it in there and I was like, I'll save it for the Triple Crown because I know they're going to find a way to get those little men on those horses and run in circles for me. And they are. And so Sean, long story short, I have 4 figures sitting in a horse racing account right now.
Oh my God. Well, of course it's the MyBookie.ag race book. And I have not enjoyed, any sort of Zoom activity or Zoom call, with the exception of Ryan McKee's little horse racing birthday party. It was legitimately fun. So if you're looking for something to do, the Belmont, and of course, whatever is considered the big race, I forget what number, but they're running races all day, and you can bet on other tracks using the feed. So I would highly recommend getting a couple of your buddies together, or if you live in a state where it's not controlled by fascists and you can meet up in person, hang outside, don't spread the germs, but bet together and get a little Zoom action going. It was a fun way to do quarantine betting.
Well, and here's why it works, right? Number one reason Zoom calls don't work is because people are constantly talking over each other.
Yeah.
Number one reason why gambling with your friends and watching horse racing works over Zoom is because everyone's supposed to be screaming at the same time.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what you're saying, right? Good. Let's move on. Sean, there's lots more to talk about though.
There is breaking news. New York Giants kicker Aldrich Rosas, who you've proclaimed many a times was the star of the no longer was. Well, formerly the star of the New York Giants. He was involved in he T-boned another vehicle. He was drunk, driving 100 miles per hour at 8:25 a.m. in Chico, California.
#Legends only.
T-boned the pickup truck and then fled the scene. His vehicle, his SUV broke down, and then he started.
Were there injuries?
Yeah, he got injured. He looks like he's cut up and bloody and going to jail. So Kramer already 2 arrests going into the NFL season. Any thoughts on Aldrich Rosas? Do you suspend a kicker? What happens?
Has he been convicted yet?
No, but
Sean, how reckless of you as an American
almost
to not
as reckless
wait
as
for the due process.
Aldrich Rosas.
Second of all, if there's ever a time where exhibiting a slight bit of crazy behavior,
so you got quarantine fever.
Well, do we have the dash cams? Do we know what the police were doing, Sean? I have questions.
Oh, okay. So maybe
I have questions. Look, I think people want to write news stories. I get it. You want to attack the kicker. You want to attack one of the team leaders. It
feels like right out of a scene out of like Necessary Roughness or something.
But I will say, to be wasted at 8:25 in the morning. Kudos to you. You're finding a way to have a good social distancing quarantine.
Chico, California is a party town.
But yeah, I mean, what come on, dude. Just sounds like the kind of place where you just should drive on the dirt roads, maybe stay off the streets.
Just get an Uber.
Why are we bringing this up? Well, are you bringing this up because you wanted to talk about football and you wanted to mention how we are going to be back in the booth this Thursday, this Friday, calling some fabulous MyBookie Madden games, some Madden games over on MyBookie
Summer.
We are doing, this is week 3. This is all about week 3 on the NFL schedule. We got Dolphins Jags starting things off on Thursday night, 5 PM on the West Coast, 8 PM on the East Coast. And then we're going to be doing games both nights at 8 and 10 on the East Coast, 5 and 7 on the West Coast. We got Bucks Broncos on deck for Thursday, the nightcap. And then on Friday, we have Packers Saints. That should be a good one. Saints are sim gods.
Game of the year.
And then we have Chiefs Ravens.
Also should be an awesome game.
So
although the Ravens are kind of disappointing in the sim world
every time, and then
I keep saying Lamar Jackson should have been a receiver, and people in the chat get all fired up.
Maybe they'll fix this with next year's Madden version, which of course he's the cover of.
And perfect way to crowbar it back to more promoting our content. I gave out my top 10 list, as did you, for the top 10 list of fantasy football quarterbacks. Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes were not number 1 on my list. You have to download the podcast to hear who it is. And the fact that he's on the cover of Madden 21, I feel so good because we know the Madden curse is still alive. Some would argue that Patrick Mahomes broke it last year by being on the cover and winning the Super Bowl. However, Patrick Mahomes didn't put up amazing fantasy numbers last year because he missed a bunch of games. And
in fairness, I saw something about this. Mahomes last year, they won the Super Bowl. Hard to say he was cursed. The year before, but he
did that freak knee injury.
No, I agree. There was still a little bit.
There was a little curse action.
You can walk yourself back to the curse existing. Antonio Brown had a monster statistical year. Again, you can retrofit why it was a curse now. Year before, Tom Brady, 2018, won the MVP of the league.
Fucking wheel, man.
So perhaps the curse doesn't quite exist, but as we discussed on that episode, Sean, I think we both expect there to be some regression.
Regression candidates do exist.
And just so people are clear, not only are we calling games this Thursday and Friday, we're also calling games next Thursday and Friday. And teaser alert: the Giants and the Eagles are on the schedule. So stay tuned.
Saturday and Sunday, of course, the college football tournament continues.
Saturday and Sunday are for the colleges, as they say, the amateurs,
for the boys that are playing college football,
and ladies and boys who think they're ladies and ladies who think they're boys.
Well, and the leaderboard is up, and as you'll notice, tied for first place, Sean Green with the perfect bracket, AKSG, aka the Sim God.
Sim God is really filling in nicely.
Well, Kramer, I think it's time to transition.
Well, real quick on the Sim God topic.
Yes,
this won't take much time, but someone asked me about my profile. What does this mean? You're down units to Sean and Sim God. So funny anecdote. Had to explain what a Sim God was to a lame stream normal person.
Kramer does update his profile with his current balance. It's he's down 8 units, and one day I will collect and have a ton of his cash. If you want to start collecting cash from people for their losing bets, maybe you know some losers in your life, you considered opening your own sports book. It's really easier than it sounds. You don't need to know how to set a line. You don't need to know how to even put together a website. All you need to know how to do is just go to aceperhead.com/SGP, aceperhead.com/SGP. You can become a bookie in just minutes. And if you use that link, up to 6 weeks free. That's right. 6 weeks free of some of the best paperhead software and hosting platforms on the market. Very easy to use, very sharp lines. Hey, it's 2020. Time to start your own business. Sports are getting back. We got golf action you can book. We got NBA right around the corner. Golf. It's all happening. Go to aceperhead.com/SGP. Joining us on the line, host of the EPL show, the Bundesliga show.
Oh, you almost got
Bundesliga
it right.
show, the fight show, soccer and MMA expert Billi Bhatti. Billy, how are you doing, man?
I'm good. You know, I tried to get that show changed to Das Bundesliga show. Sometimes I was adding, getting it added up under that title. I was wondering if Kramer was letting it slip through or whether he was changing it.
When the first time you submitted it, or maybe I didn't notice, but I saw the one time where you threw the proper like umlauts in there too. And I was like, oh yeah, I like this. Das Bundesliga. And what you don't know, Billy, is that during these simulations that we broadcast for my bookie and our Twitch stream, people have been requesting that I say Das Bundesliga. So they must be into it, you know?
Yeah, I had no idea. I figured that I would go down that route. I had to check though what the was, because there was a male and female version of way to say the when you're referencing the what comes after it. So I had to look into this stuff as well, but I wanted to get it as authentic as possible, seeing as we're only going to be doing this a one-time thing, because usually this show does exist on my website, but European football exists as one show over at Lock Betting. So normally we just do the regular EPL. So this was a chance to do a different.
Well, it's cashing in on the opportunity with real men stepping up to the plate and playing sport, Sean. Not like these pussies over here with American baseball.
Yeah, that's insane that they still can't figure it out. The EPL, the soccer heads over in England have figured it out. They're going to be playing the footy. How excited are you for the return of soccer? I mean, were you really getting into Bundesliga, or was it just kind of like the methadone until you got the EPL fix?
No, Bundesliga is a higher level league. It's the winner of the Bundesliga, which is usually Bayern Munich. They do contend for the Champions League, so it wasn't too rough because we've had Spain come back in the last week. Italy comes back at the same time as the EPL. So everything coming back together. Bundesliga did have 3 weeks out by itself. We really suffered during the lockdown period because we had to go all the way down to Belarusian football, and these guys are barely professionals. So that was a real struggle having to watch that standard and caliber of football. But as things have slowly come back, Bundesliga had its own standalone 3 weeks or so, but now all of the real stuff is coming back with your Barcelona's, Real Madrid's, Juventus, and all of the crew from the EPL who all could contend for Champions League, all do contend to sign the best players in the world, and all are highly competitive, watchable leagues. So yeah, everything's back to normal now. It's just the behind closed door stuff, and I'm not sure how I feel about the backing track that's been put in, because they're basically playing crowd noises from video games and whatnot. And I only worked out yesterday. This is an interesting thing. I only worked out yesterday that the TV companies are playing that track. I thought it was the stadium track that the players could hear all this atmosphere and everything. But if you watch the feed on the betting website, so for example, Bet365 air all the games live, you can still then hear the proper behind closed door stuff where it's the players all shouting at each other for the ball and very small amounts of noise. But when you watch it on a TV broadcast, they're the ones that are piping in all the sound. They're the ones that have the sound collected and are playing it to you. So I wasn't aware of that till yesterday. I thought for about 3 weeks that the sound was being played over the stadium, and the players felt like they were actually in a ground.
So Billy, do you think this is obviously going to clearly assist in road teams' ability to stay organized on defense and things of that nature? Have you seen that already in the Bundesliga? Sorry, Das Bundesliga.
In terms of what? In terms
like when you go on the road, there's no noise. So you like the back four, the goalie, they're going to be able to communicate a lot more. I would imagine that would help maybe keep scores down. I mean, have you noticed anything so far?
Yeah. Well, I mean, what it has done is, without the home fans there, the home advantage has been completely neutralized. And originally, I figured that it would neutralize it to a lesser extent than it has. Obviously, if it would have some effect, if you don't have your home fans there, putting it on you to win and willing you or essentially being totally against the other team, that advantage is completely gone because they're not there. I mean, some teams, some very very small selection of teams, don't get any advantage from that because the crowds actually get on their backs and they actually find it difficult to play at home. But for the most cases, 80 or 90% of the time, your home supporters cheering you on and motivating you would be a positive factor. But what we've seen here is that without that advantage, it completely has neutralized home advantage in the Bundesliga. I still thought there would be an advantage of knowing that this is your home ground, being used to the facilities there, being used to the surroundings, being used to the pitch even, but it's had no advantage at all. As we come into this weekend of Bundesliga matches, or this midweek of Bundesliga matches, we've had just 20% home wins.
Wow.
11 out of 55.
That's crazy.
And 51% away wins, and 29%.
Are they? Do you have the people setting the lines? Have they adjusted that enough? Like I'm looking at the EPL lines, and of course, people want to check out your EPL show, dropping wherever great podcasts are found on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network feed. Even going to throw in an appearance on the SGP main feed as well. So I'm just kind of pulling this out of nowhere, but Arsenal plus 685 dog in Man City on the three-way money line there.
Yeah.
Almost 6-1. Is there more value than there would normally be?
There absolutely has to be more value than there usually be. If you're looking at the data that you've collected from this small amount of Bundesliga games with 51% away winners, you have to think that factor then rides onto other leagues. We saw 4 home winners out of the first 12 games from the La Liga as we're recording this show. There's been some more games since, but yeah, I mean, it is not going to be as high as 51% away teams, because that basically tells you that without any prior football knowledge, you could have gone into the situation and thought, yeah, they're not going to have their fans there. This could be a neutralizing factor. I'll blindly throw money on the away teams, and you would have come out. You would have been a dummy for doing it on paper, but you would have come out with a whole load of money. 51% away teams, where 90% of the time the away team is the underdog, you would have cashed 51% underdogs. So there's definitely premise to do it, and I don't think you're going to come in with those same sort of numbers. But yeah, there's got to be an argument for doing that in terms of taking these away teams in that particular fixture as well. One of the things when we handicap these lines and look at picking winners, when we do give them out, you got to look at the motivating factors as well. One of the reasons why so many people wanted to get this Premier League back is because people are in situations where they're contending for Champions League positions. Liverpool want to win the league because they need 2 more wins, and then other teams are trying to get into the top 4 or the top 5 even, because if Man City, the European ban sticks, then it will be the top 5 Premier League teams that carry on playing in the Champions League. And at the bottom as well, you have teams that want to get themselves out of the relegation zone. So we have interest at the bottom of the table with teams going down, and interest at the top as well. But We also have these mishmash of middle teams. You have teams that can't get outside the top four. You have teams that can't get in the top four. You have teams that have no interest in a relegation battle at all because they're completely safe. These are all your favourable teams. And Manchester City, although a much better team than Arsenal, they cannot drop outside of the top four. They've got too many points and they can't win the league either. So they're just playing out these 9 games for the hell of it. It's compulsory. They have to do it. Whereas Arsenal, they have an opportunity, a very slim opportunity to get into the top 5 and get Champions League football. But they also want to get Europa League football at a minimum. So that's finishing inside the top 7. So you're looking at a much inferior team that have a lot to play for against a better team that have nothing to play for. And all of these things have to factor in when you're looking at who you want to bet or the football. It's not just a case of Man City have always been better than Arsenal, have better players than Arsenal, and have a much better winning record against Arsenal over the last few years.
Yeah. So
real quick, because I know, and we should get this out of the way, because I know, Billy, you're a big time hater of Liverpool. They're your Red Sox. They're your Cowboys, and the restart of the season really only means one thing, and that's Liverpool. Liverpool is going to get. They're finally going to lift the trophy. They're going to lift the trophy after so many years. So, are you happy that all this social distancing is going on? So you're not gonna have to deal with all these Liverpool fan assholes
no parade
out there celebrate. Like what are you? Just take me through the experience that you're about to live through as someone. I mean, this is like the Cowboys winning the Super Bowl, Sean. Like, what would we do? It would be horrible.
It's horrible, but I don't live in Liverpool, so we've always had to deal with these people on social media, and for years it's always been a case of them telling us what they're going to do, and then complaining about how everything went against them and how the world's against them and everything when it didn't. I mean, they're unbearable in so many ways. I mean, just generally that Liverpool as a city isn't a nice place to go, and it isn't filled with particularly nice people, but. There was an inevitability to this. There are a lot of Man United fans that wanted to avoid this to the extent of where they didn't even want the season to continue. Now, when I was doing my "If It All Ended Now" shows, I was actually ranking in terms of the teams that wanted the season to start and wanted the season to go away and be voided. Now, Man United, they finished quite high on both charts, whereas there was half of supporters that really, really want this season to continue. And if there wasn't a Man United rivalry with Liverpool, you look at it and go, right, Man United, they're still in the FA Cup, they're still in the Europa League, and they're on the cusp of returning to the Champions League because they're inside that top 5. They have all the motivating factors here for wanting this season to continue. Yet they still had to chart high on the other side of it, because if you look on social media, despite the fact that Man United are having a good season in terms of challenging for potential trophies and returning to the top 4, and bearing in mind this is a transitional year for Man United under a new manager where they are inbreeding all of these new younger players, and the real plan was to challenge for the league, or to challenge at least to try and compete for the league next season. Instead, you've got all of these Man United fans online saying, let's cancel the season, and that's because they just don't want to see Liverpool win. They would rather all of our work be undone, despite the fact that we are in the quarterfinals of the Europa League and quarterfinals of the FA Cup and on the cusp of returning to the Champions League from our league position. They want all of that undone because they just don't want to see Liverpool ever win this league again. It's been 30 years since they've done it. And to put that into perspective, Liverpool were well clear of Manchester United in terms of who'd won this league the more times. And under Alex Ferguson, Man United just powered back and won around about, I think it was like 12 league titles before Liverpool had won another one. So it's been 30 years since Liverpool have won it, and Man United have captured 12 in that time and have gone ahead of them. They lead them by 20 Premier Leagues to 18. So at one point, Liverpool were 10 clear of Manchester United 30 years ago, and they've had to suffer and watch us win over and over and over again under Ferguson. And now they do have a chance to claw one back.
So if you're like Sean,
yes,
and you're stepping into this soccer thing fresh because you're a DGen. You've been betting simulations, you've been betting UFC, but you need more live sports to wet your whistle. More action. And by the way, you can watch a lot of the EPL is on NBC Sports, NBC. Yeah. They have a great kind of like better than any NFL recap show called Premier League match of the day where they take you through like
Kramer,
20-minute highlights of each
NFL
game.
prime time.
It's beautiful. I mean, honestly, you can follow the league watching like 2 hours a week if you don't want to watch any games. But if you're going to dip your toe back or into something new, into the soccer wagering world, the football wagering world, as Billy would call it, Sean probably has some questions, but he told me he didn't want to look like an idiot. So I'm going to ask these as if they were asked by the fans. Now, if I'm coming into the EPL, now I already brought up the fact that I personally think games are going to be lower scoring, and I might look to take unders because I think the fact that there isn't noise in a stadium, as someone who played soccer, the number one thing crowd noise does to you is it makes you not be able to hear what's going around you on the field. You can hear people running. You can hear your teammates calling for the ball. You can hear the sound of the voice to know, is that my teammate or is that the other player? So I think I'm going to approach this as I'm looking to play unders. Is there something that the novice soccer bettor should be looking at, Billy, as far as their dip into the EPL pond?
The unders thing is interesting because I addressed this on social media before in terms of someone asking me why there were seemingly more unders than usual. And that's simply just down to a couple of factors. There's an adjustment period in terms of coming back and playing. You can train all you want, but defending is an easier thing to do. It's less skillful to get yourself organized and to stifle attacks and to get yourself into these systems to stop people from scoring. And there's a lot of Premier League teams that play that way anyway, especially against the bigger teams. They're used to setting up to avoid a defeat. And this becomes a lot easier because the skill of scoring a goal and producing that moment of magic and being able to deliver shots and decent passes that open up defenses, that requires a level of skill, which requires a level of practice, which requires a level of repetition. So originally, I do think that there'll be more attacking rust than defensive rust, and that's just normal. When you come back.
Real quick. That's almost a similar mindset when we're handicapping NFL games, like the NFL preseason, where the defense is instinctively ahead of the offense because you don't. In this case,
react. It's not learned. You know,
you don't have plays or whatever you guys run over there.
I think everybody's learning a playbook.
Yeah,
still they're learning what the new
getting
runs
back in
are,
rhythm.
Yeah,
but yeah, sorry to cut you off there.
No, but that just goes hand in hand with the unders as well. In addition to that, what we have without the crowds is that we don't have, especially with the home team. If you've got inferior home teams, for example, you don't have this necessity in order to have that mindset of these people paid for a ticket, so we're obligated to press forward and to try and win this game for our supporters. So be it work both ways. All the people that paid to watch you in your home ground, who are maybe getting on your back because you're playing too negatively, or of your traveling away supporters. So sometimes you can have games in England where let's use Newcastle and Southampton, for example, where it's a 7-hour car journey where you've come from the south all the way down to Newcastle, and you don't want to watch your Southampton team with a shitty performance, putting 10 man at the back trying not to lose. Now, bearing in mind these two particular teams, that scenario wouldn't have played out. They're probably more likely to, let's say, someone like Southampton traveling to Liverpool, it's only be a 5-hour journey, but still the tactic would be the same, where they would be able to sit in and defend, and it wouldn't be too entertaining for their traveling supporters. Now, who gives a shit? Because you can go and play whatever tactic you want and go and play however you need to in order to get whatever you need from the game. It doesn't matter. There's nobody to appease within the stadium, or at least nobody's going to get on your ass about it and boo you and heckle you and try and urge you to play a different game. The tactics that have been mapped out, you can stick to these strictly for the entire 90-minute period, and that in itself leads to unders too.
So go ahead. Sean.
Well,
I'm hijacking here.
No. I this is all good stuff as a novice soccer bettor who just takes Billy's advice here. When you mentioned, I like the psychology handicapping the teams facing relegation that may kind of end up being big dogs in some of these games. Still, who are these like bottom 5 teams or whatever it is that are possibly relegated? Who is standing out to you as possibly like the best kind of dog to ride?
Aston Villa. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh.
Yeah, Aston Villa only 25 points, 4-17.
Well, and Billy, quick, because
7-4-17.
I think Aston Villa could be a team that Sean adopts. Their star, of course, just a guy that just to me looks like someone who Sean could get behind.
Potentially Rudy.
I don't know. What do you think, Billy?
Grealish. He likes to. He would get behind a Grealish.
Well, he's a man. He wears tiny shin guards because he's a real man. He's from like he's a local lad. Like he's playing for his hometown club.
Oh, I like it.
Yeah, I think you would like the story of Aston Villa, Sean. I think you would like it a lot. A little bit of that, not necessarily parallels to the city of Philadelphia, but the team for sure.
Scrappy.
Although Aston Villa won stuff at some point in the past, unlike the Eagles.
Super Bowl 52.
Aston Villa, much like Leeds, who are in the lower league and just can't get back into the Premier League, they do have a history of being a successful club, but they're struggling at the moment. And they spent a lot of money to stay in the Premier League, unlike a Norwich, who pretty much knew that they were going back down. And even Sheffield United, but Sheffield United haven't gone back down. They've actually ended up being a team who have stayed in the mid-table. They're actually 7th at the moment, but I think they may drop down to mid-table without their supporters there, which is a very helpful home support, and they do play up to it. I think they may struggle when we come back. But Aston Villa, they've massively underachieved. They bought a lot of players to stay in this league. They have got Jack Grealish as well, who's a player that could play for any one of the teams in the top 6. He's a highly rated young English player who would like to have stayed at Aston Villa. They have turned down offers for him before. He's been happy for them to turn down the offers because it was his boyhood dream to be the Aston Villa club captain. But they have a horrendous running. When we come back, despite the fact that they are only 2 points outside the relegation zone, they have one of the most difficult run-ins coming back. Now, what has benefited them is that they did have some injuries and they got some of these players back. And that's consistent throughout the entire Premier League. If you're looking at someone like Tottenham, they had Harry Kane out, Song out, a load of players out. Now, during this lockdown period, not only have they got all of those players back, but Mourinho, who took over as a new manager there, someone you guys should be familiar with, he never really had a time to adjust and sort out this defense because he's a very solid defensive manager. Now he's had almost an entire preseason during this lockdown period to really prepare his team. And we're going to see a Tottenham that are properly under the mold of Mourinho. So I expect them to be much better coming forward. But staying on point, Aston Villa was one of the relegation teams. I think they're going to struggle. Watford have lost one of their key players, Troy Deeney, because he doesn't want to play anymore. He's got a son who's 5 years old with asthma, and he's refusing to play. We've got a couple of these players that are refusing to play because of this, big pussies, and they're not going to come back for their team. So Watford notoriously play worse without Troy Deeney, who's their captain. Aston Villa have a terrible running, so I do think they're teams that can get sucked in. Brighton as well. Brighton are a team who look like they're safe, but they were dropping a lot of points before we shut down for the lockdown period, and that's because they're a team that have been in the Premier League for so long, and they installed a new manager. And the idea was, okay, we're established now, and now we're going to play a different style of football because we've bored our fans to death for years and managed to stay in this league. So our finances are healthy. Now we want to play nice, pretty football and nice attacking football. The thing is that they didn't invest in the personnel, and Brighton isn't an attractive place to go to play football. It's a seaside town, which is a fairly nice place to live. But you're not going to attract the players that the big London clubs attract or the top Manchester clubs, for example. So it's going to be difficult for Brighton to play this type of football and stay in the league. And they're a good outside shout for a team to go down because they're around about 3-1 to go down. So I think they could get sucked in. As for West Ham and Bournemouth, I think they're two teams that could get out of it. I actually tip Bournemouth at even money to get out of this situation because you can bet on teams to stay up, as well as betting on teams to actually go down.
And you wouldn't believe it, Sean, but West, they blow bubbles before the game. You would love it. It's like,
what do you mean?
No, like bubbles, like bubble makers, you know. Anyway, you brought up some really good points, Billy. And to that point, some of the teams you mentioned are actually facing off against each other. And one of those matchups, which seems really relevant, is that Aston Villa team facing relegation, has the pedigree, has spent the money against the Sheffield United, who kind of shocked the world, came up. They run a little bit of a unique system, and they've had a tremendously successful season. And while perhaps this is an angle where you can look to maybe back the team that is more desperate, because as you pointed out, Sheffield United, while they are on the fringe of European soccer, that feels less likely. And if they fall back a little bit, that could be that. So that maybe this is a motivation angle. This is one of the leftover games that's being played this morning, probably as you listen to the show.
Yeah, there's 2 games to play because these 4 teams have played less, so they want to get these game in hand. They're called games in hand. They want to get them out of the way, and then the game weeks are all situated for everybody to play the equal amount of games remaining. But the game weeks are crazy as well because for television, because the television rights have been spread even across to the BBC. Now the BBC are world famous, but they charge the UK citizens a licensing fee to get the channel. It's automatic. If you have a TV, you must pay the BBC for a TV license here in the UK. So we're forced to pay for it. And the complaint has always been that, well, they give you a pile of shit. Like, why do we pay for the BBC? It basically is just a news channel with a couple of programs and a very limited amount of sports. So now they have put their hand in their pocket and bought some Premier League for the remainder of the season. And then also BT Sports, Amazon and Sky Sports are going to cover it. And most of these games are going to be on TV. So you're getting a crazy spread when we come back properly at the weekend, starting on Friday, all the way through to Monday, where Man City are going to play in the final televised game, and they get a bit of a break because they just play on Wednesday as well. So they play on Wednesday, and then they play on Monday, and then we go again on Tuesday. Immediately the next game week starts. So the EPL show is going to be me doing a show that's going to be out on Thursday, which is going to cover Friday's games. And then I'm going to drop another one on Monday because that's going to cover the games that start on Tuesday. It's going to be game after game after game to get these on TV, much like the NFL format where we see stuff happening across Thursday and then Sunday and then Monday as well. And even during the day, those games are spread. I think I would prefer NFL to just play on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday and Monday. That would be how I spread the NFL week out. But that's how
I'm down for it.
That's how the EPL is essentially going to be doing it. So
speaking of the National Football League, your Green Bay Packers kind of shocked the world drafting Jordan Love in the first round. As a Packer backer, what do you think of this Green Bay team? I mean, they made it to the NFC Championship last year, 13-3, but everyone seems to predict them as a team that's going to regress. Rodgers and LaFleur don't seem to be on the same page. How are you looking at their season so far going into 2020?
I don't know what to make of that move. I don't know whether it's a step in a direction as to where we're going to change. Because when we got LaFleur, we had we essentially brought in a guy who's run the ball most of the time. Who then inherited Aaron Rodgers. So when you have Aaron Rodgers, you don't just come in and play that. You don't just ignore the fact that you have him. But I don't know whether we're evolving and moving forward to a team that are going to start running the ball more in the future and have a more conservative quarterback. I'm not sure if that's the idea, or whether the idea is to kind of show Rodgers that you do run the team and that he doesn't run the team. It's just very confusing until we actually get to the season and see how this plays out. Because, I mean, you can see Aaron Rodgers taking this as some kind of insult, coming out, playing out of his mind this season and turning around and saying, that's what I can do. Now let me get the fuck out of here. And then him not wanting to stay there. So I don't really know how this plays out at all. I think everybody is scratching their head. As for like massive regression, I don't think there's going to be massive regression because it's still a team that was just one game away from making the Super Bowl last year. So I still think that they'll be able to get out of the division and they will be playing in the second half of the season. I don't think this is going to suddenly be a team that doesn't make the playoffs. But whether we are in another NFC Championship game or whatnot, I don't know. It just depends how the season plays out. Last year, nobody was talking about San Francisco, and they ended up being in the Super Bowl. Nobody was touting them to be in the Super Bowl. So there's always teams that just break out of nowhere and go on a little run. But on paper, we're still among the top 4 teams in the NFC. So I'm not too worried about the massive regression. I'm worried about where we're going because as a Packers fan, be it from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers, we're always used to being a quarterback team who are built around the quarterback. And I'm not really interested moving forward in us becoming a running team who have a conservative quarterback, much like how the San Francisco 49ers are built.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. You're right. I mean, in the Super Bowl, they're always, it seems like we've come to a place where we have one team that's pretty chalk and then kind of another team that's a little, more surprising, a little bit more of a long shot.
Can I, before we let Billy go, can I ask him, because his boys, his Manchester United, they open the return season against Jose Mourinho and Tottenham, as he was pointing out, This is a revenge spot. This is probably a worst case scenario. Is this not the easiest opportunity to back Tottenham?
On paper, they have a lot of players back, and this is a team that got to the Champions League final last year. But the thing is that Man United were having their best period before the lockdown period came about. Bruno Fernandes came into the team. He was a missing piece of a jigsaw. He settled really quickly. The defense took a while to adjust, but Harry Maguire's coming there, most expensive defender that we've ever bought, most expensive defender in the history of the Premier League, even more expensive than Van Dijk. And he has come in. He's a future England captain, and he's come in and he's done a very, very good job. He's already our captain. And so behind our defense, we've got De Gea. We've got two very good fullbacks. The back four is all now working together. We now do have that creative midfielder in Fernandes. Scott McTominay's turning into a good defensive midfielder. And now, during the lockdown period, Paul Pogba has got himself fit, and they're contemplating playing Fernandes and Pogba, because I think you have to do that, because if you don't, you have to let Pogba go and you have to go and get your 150 million for him. But the prospect of them playing together, if this is the motivated Paul Pogba that now sees that, yes, finally, not all of the hope is on my shoulders, and I can be more free and I can just play, and I'm not carrying the weight of this team, because originally he was the 80 million pound man who was single-handedly expected to rejuvenate Man United from the dark days that we've dropped into since we were winning everything under Alex Ferguson. So all of the onus was on Pogba. But now there's more pieces around him, and of course Marcus Rashford's back as well. This is as strong as Manchester United have been, I believe, since Alex Ferguson left. So I expect us to come back and be stronger, or at least pick up from where we were. And if that's the case, then we shouldn't be losing to Tottenham. But at the same time, I don't see Tottenham as this big underdog that they're priced for in that game. They are being massively disrespected. But at the same time, again, 51% away teams won in the Bundesliga. So you have to take that into consideration. On a neutral field, Man United are currently a better team than Tottenham. So there's so much to factor into every single game. I'm still going to go down the route of handicapping each game individually, in terms of, yes, I will take into consideration the neutralizing factors of having no crowd. But at the same time, we still have data that we have to look at between different head-to-head matches between the teams, plus what they've done this season. One thing that I will warn people about, though, and I've seen American cappers on gambling Twitter, or at least wannabe cappers, as they claim to be, they're getting absolutely hammered on overs. They are getting hammered on the overs. They're just blindly taking overs. They're looking at all of the statistics in the Bundesliga, and that was the both teams to score statistics and the over statistics, and they're seeing these over teams come together, and they're just betting it. It's not worked out for them at all. It's also not worked out taking teams to hammer other teams as well. Like today, Barcelona played against Leganés, and a lot of guys had Barcelona to score a whole load of goals, or for this team to get massively over. Even I got sucked into an over for this game, because Barcelona looked so impressive on Saturday when they returned, but it didn't land. But I've been a lot more cautious in terms of taking overs than they have, because they've blindly just taken overs. They've not moved away from their stats, and they've gone home team, and they've been crushed. There isn't anybody that I've seen on Twitter who claims to be an expert soccer who's making any money.
And that's why you have to subscribe to the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, so you can get the Das Bundesliga show, you can get the EPL show, you can get the Champions League show, and most importantly, you can find out where to get all of Billy's other stuff. Real quick, to close the loop on it, that midfielder, that 150 million pound midfielder that Billy was referring to, Paul Pogba, he is the Cam Newton of the EPL. I needed to do that for Sean. So Sean will be on Tottenham this weekend for sure.
All right, Billy, appreciate it as always. Make sure to check him out on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network feed, EPL show, fight show, lockbetting.com.
Yeah.
Thank you, Billy.
And just to say that, just in terms of soccer, like, it is one of those sports where I know it's a very American thing to do, and this isn't a knock on you guys as a company, or sorry, not as a company, sorry, as a country. It is a case of you run the numbers all the time. You just run numbers. But the eye test is so important in soccer, and also looking at motivating factors as well. You need to actually do each game individually. You need to watch football. I always say it like that's one of the key things that I do. I'm actually somebody that would watch football anyway, regardless. I've been doing it since I was 5 years old. I have to watch the games, yes, for the shows and in terms of running a service where I'm giving out betting tips, but I'd be doing this anyway. I enjoy doing it. I will watch as much soccer as I possibly can. I don't think your other cappers are doing it. And this isn't a blind sport where you just go in and run numbers for what they've done this year and what they've done against each other. If you're capping stuff like that and you're not using your gut and you're not using your eyes, which are two of the most important things in soccer, you're going to get absolutely crushed to death. So I wouldn't be following anybody that's using just statistical data and isn't watching it and isn't sitting there during the games and giving you like rundowns and whatnot, because your gut and your eyes is just so important.
Let me recap this for everyone. Billy is the best. He's so good that Sean, a noted soccer hater, has allowed affiliation to Billy and his soccer know-how for over, Sean, you wouldn't believe it, 2014, the 2000, I think it was the 2014 World Cup. Billy came on, slayed it. He's been slaying it ever since. So again,
2014.
Subscribe to that podcast. He gives out. It's funny because there's a couple fans who they get angry if Billy's podcast isn't on time. And it's just like every week there's winners. So I would highly encourage you to subscribe, especially if you're new to the sport. And most importantly, the most important thing about Billy and his capping of the fit fancy sport of soccer, he has the proper accent to do it. So Jersey doesn't go with the pitch quite as nice as London.
Let me just say one final thing as well. If you guys could give me a follow, I have a new Twitter.
Ooh.
It's very easy to follow. It's SGP EPL. The lock betting one is gone, and I'm not sure it's coming back. So I've been having this feud with this guy in the wrestling industry because it happened ever since we both had verified Twitter accounts and we're the only verified wrestling journalists. And he had a real issue with that. And he's targeted me for a long time. And I gave him the rope to hang me with a few years ago when I talked negatively about women's wrestling, and he launched this whole tirade and campaign against me where I was portrayed as sexist and whatnot. And if you can get enough complaints against you on Twitter, they will take down your account. And when I resurfaced on Twitter, and I was quietly sitting there for 3 years just doing gambling, but recently I've taken on a new job on the wrestling front where I'm doing a show with Vince Russo, and Vince Russo is the guy that wrote all of the good wrestling that you guys liked in the late 90s with Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock and Undertaker, Kane, Mankind. He was writing all that stuff. It was all coming from his mind. So he's very, very well known in the wrestling industry, and I'm doing a show with him. So this put me very much back on the map in terms of I was on there promoting all of my Twitter, thinking I was going to get all of this business from these thousands of people that I could convert into gamblers to win money betting on wrestling at least. And it just made him aware of the fact that I was there on a different account, and he immediately got it deleted. So very, very quietly, this is the account at SGP EPL. I'm not going to be talking about this account at all in front of these wrestling losers. So I'm just going to go there, do my wrestling show, and I'm going to promote my wrestling Instagram instead. I've got a wrestling Instagram, which is going to be completely safe because I've never done anything wrong with Instagram. And my gambling stuff, because I need to be on there. I need to be on gambling Twitter. It's going to be SGP EPL. So easy. So Sports Gambling Podcast
at SGP EPL. Again,
give it a follow. Support Billi Bhatti, fellow gut handicapper. Billy, appreciate it as always. And before we move over to Steve Schirmer and our RBC Heritage preview, Kramer, want to give a shout out to Cushy Dreams. That's right, Cushy Dreams. You're living that CBD life, Kramer. Cushy Dreams, smokable CBD. They got a bunch of great CBD pre-rolls, creative. I like, Kramer, you're a big peace guy. And they have a smokable CBD flower, completely legal, all 50 states. All you got to do is go to cushydreams.com, KUSHY dreams.com. Use the promo code SGP, 15% off. That's right, cushydreams.com, promo code SGP for 15% off. Smoke your CBD because you can.
I was hoping you'd throw it to me.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I thought you were
smoke your CBD because you can.
Joining us on the line, golf expert for SGPN, Steve Schirmer. Steve, how excited are you that golf's officially back?
Oh, I'm over the moon. I mean, there's been NASCAR on that I've tried to, that's kind of held my attention. There's Korean baseball early in the morning, but golf is that's my bread and butter. It was so good to see the guys out there last week, and it was an incredible leaderboard. There's a lot of top names out there, and it's great to have it back.
Well, and we're doing this podcast. Normally we don't do a podcast breaking down the RBC Heritage, but with the limited slate of sports, these guys with that delay, it seems like you just said the big names are coming back. So in a weird way, these almost feel like mini majors.
And unlike those prima donnas in baseball, the golfers are like, we will play.
Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, we could do another 20 minutes on golf on baseball. I was ready to watch baseball. They're just, I can't tell you how little amount of baseball I've watched, and these pig-headed just idiots can't figure out. You could dominate the summer. People could fall in love. It could be bigger than McGuire Sosa for the sport. And they're like, we don't want to get a bad deal.
And Steve, things have gotten bad when Sean is excited for the return of the EPL. So
yes, we're talking EPL on this podcast as well, but Steve's on the line. We're talking RBC Heritage. So give us a little course breakdown, tips, what kind of golfers it favors.
Sure. So Harbor Town was built in 1967. It's a Pete Dye golf course. So, you typically see a Pete Dye golf course in TPC Sawgrass. There's a couple other ones on the tour, but they're mostly known. Pete Dye tried to set up a golf course to make it as hard as possible and to basically just make it like 3 hours in a dental chair. He has little nuances about the golf courses that just drives you nuts. So the one thing about Harbor Town is it's a very tight golf course. There's a lot of trees everywhere. Now it's a popular golf course for a lot of, the public because, it's not overly long. The bunkers aren't very shallow. It's actually a perfect golf course for one of those old guys who just hits the ball straight every time.
Yeah. But sounds like it'd be good for me where I've just given up on hitting my driver and I'm hitting 3-wood off the tee. I've just said, you know what? I can't hit the driver straight. It's not worth it. I'll lose the 15 yards and just hit a 3-wood down the middle and kind of enjoy golf more.
And that's exactly, if you have a slice or, if you have trouble off the tee, this is definitely not the golf course for you. You're going to lose a lot of balls, but overall, one of the things we saw last week, because it was interesting how they set up the schedule with the return of the PGA Tour. You had two similar golf courses that favored a certain skill set. It was mostly favored some shorter hitters, some guys who were a little more accurate, a little better with irons. And what we saw last week was when you have a really strong field with long and straight hitters, they can just bomb it over all the trouble on a golf course. And that's what we saw last week at Colonial. Now, this week, with the position of the holes and how when you watch this tournament on, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, you're going to see immediately, you cannot take those aggressive lines like they did last week. It's going to demand a lot more accuracy than it did last week. A lot of guys, you're not going to be able to take driver. You're going to have to take your medicine, lay up off the tee, and basically play it as Pete Dye designed it. So I think this tournament, while I'm not saying that it's not going to have a big stacked leaderboard like last week, guys aren't going to be able to dictate how the golf course plays. They're going to have to play it as is.
Yeah, and when I was looking to put together my lineup and some of the picks, I read your article. I got keyed into that fact, so I looked to driving accuracy and strokes gained on the green, because that to me is kind of the formula for potentially a winning lineup. If you're watching this on YouTube, you may be asking yourself, why do we have a photo of Bryson DeChambeau flexing? Now, Steve, you really did us a great service. You turned us on to this 15-minute video of that Bryson put out, and video is selling it short. It's almost like a silent film. There's no dialogue in it. It's just 15 minutes of different B-roll of what Bryson did in his quarantine. It's one of the unintentionally funniest things I've seen in a long time. And just like motivational quotes will flash up, and it's just him being cool, driving his Bentley, and then a lot of workout scenes.
I just saw how he said, like, I read that little blurb where it's like, it's all about the business and the body and the quarantine or whatever. I was like, Jesus.
So what Deschambeau, walk us through this. He's had a crazy transformation coming off a good week. What's in store for his future?
Well, I mean, can I just touch on this video first?
Oh yeah,
because,
please.
I mean, when I watch this thing, first of all, I've watched it probably 10 times and I can't just stop laughing at the whole thing. It is the most self-serving, egomaniacal thing I have ever seen.
It's really great.
But after I watch it, I'm wondering what purpose does it serve? What does he want you to know? And I think there's three things. There's three main takeaways from this video. Number one, he wants you to know that he has abs. And that's a direct shot actually at Brooks Koepka because did you guys know that he does a Twitch channel where he plays Fortnite?
Oh, I didn't.
So a couple of bloggers, they basically camped out and watched, him play Fortnite, which, I mean, I kind of want to blow my brains out if that's if I had that job, but was one of his Twitch followers asked him about Brooks Koepka and the body issue. And Bryson made a comment of, oh, Brooks doesn't have abs. I have abs. So, and a minute into the video, you see him shirtless walking into the kitchen and just cooking this big giant slab of bacon, which, I mean, I can't imagine he's going to have abs a lot longer if he's eating an entire slab of bacon with all that, trans fat and grease in the pan there. So that's takeaway number one. He wants you to know that he has abs. Number two, he wants you to know that not only is he big and strong, he's also a graceful athlete because he can walk on a tightrope. I mean, I think he wants you to know that he's, more than just this muscle bound guy. And number three, the most important thing to take away from this video is he wants you to know that it looks like he went to a foreclosure auction for a local gym and just bought all of the machines. And then for the last 4 months, all he's been doing is just lat pull downs and just, hammer curls. And, maybe it's a message to all those bullies in high school that stuffed in the locker that he's big and huge now.
Well, and I if you look at the photo, like the photo itself paints a great picture of a guy who clearly had no idea what a gym was, ordered a bunch of gym equipment as you state. And then when the guy showed up, he's like, I guess you just roll it all in the garage. And he's
very, very cluttered.
He's put it on. It's just like someone sent him some free shit. He's like, I guess I should use this.
Yeah, there's a lot of product placement and just him going for drives in the Bentley.
It sounds like we should be reaching out as now that we're colleagues on Twitch together.
Oh yeah, for sure.
He's probably new to the casting life. He might need some tips from us.
He's a fellow sim god.
Sim god.
As far as his game, do you think it'll hold up this week?
Well, I mean, so what I mentioned earlier was guys aren't going to be able to bomb and gouge Harbor Town like they did last week, and that's mostly a direct reference to Bryson. I mean, he broke Colonial Country Club. That is not how the golf course is supposed to be played. But when you hit it as long and straight as he does, there are very few golf courses that can provide enough defenses against that. But Harbor Town's one of those things. He can't. The tee box is very claustrophobic. There's a lot of trees. He's not going to be able to hit it over dog legs. He's going to have to dial back with an iron and basically just set himself out for the second shot. Now, the one thing about this whole body transformation that has been surprising is you've seen guys chase distance before and they tend to lose skill sets in other parts of their game. But that hasn't really happened with Bryson. He's still an awesome iron player. He's still a really good putter. So, I mean, I don't want to doubt that he can't perform well at this tournament, but if he thinks he's going to take the same approach as he did at Colonial, he has another thing coming. He's going to have to make some adjustments within the game, which he probably can do. He's a very smart player. And while I'm tempering my expectations a little bit for him this week, it wouldn't surprise me if he proves everybody wrong, just as he's proved everybody wrong for the last 5 months.
Sean?
Yes.
You know, the theme with my DraftKings lineups when it comes to golf is all about that drip.
This guy is super wet.
He's extra drippy. And real quick, I was reading a little bit about how he was focusing on his body because, of course, we all should, Sean. It's our own temple, and it made me think this guy's not. If he's maintaining the flexibility to swing a golf club with arm cannons like that, because he's starting to look more like one of those long drive guys. So I got to imagine he's working in some yoga. He's working in some Pilates. He's working in some things that maybe he didn't show on that hype reel that might be a little embarrassing, but
it's core strength. That's how you get those abs.
I don't see how the drip squad is going to go without Mr. Bryson this week, but we'll get to that.
Well, real quick before we start putting together a little DFS lineup, Rory, he was in the mix. It was funny because I don't know how many years ago it was. He kind of had that little bit of a run, and everyone's like, "He's the next Tiger. Look out, Rory's the guy." And the hype really he kind of hasn't lived up to the hype. He's had some good performances, but certainly not like the dominant next guy that he was kind of heralded early on. He was in the mix last week and then kind of fell apart. Do you think he recovers this week?
I don't know. There's something going on with him, and that's in his late weekend collapses are kind of becoming a little bit of a pattern, which is weird that I'm criticizing Rory because I mean, all his ball striking numbers are great. And I think he won 3 times last year and he's world number 1 by a mile, I think. So, but it's strange that we have this perspective of Rory as this guy who just can't close. Like I remember looking last week, he was 3 back going to the final round and his odds before Sunday was 14-1. And on one hand, I'm like, well, I've seen Rory shoot a 62 on Sunday and light the field up. He did that last year at the RBC Canadian Open, but I just had no inkling to bet it because I didn't have any faith that he would actually show up. And he didn't. He fired a final round 75. And that's been a little bit of a pattern for him this year. He was in the mix of the Arnold Palmer before the COVID break, and he had a similar bad round on Sunday. He was in the mix of the Genesis, had a pretty subpar round there too. Last year, the WGC FedEx in the final group, and Brooks just completely took him to the woodshed. It's just, you got to wonder, like, maybe he achieved maybe everything he wanted in golf. I mean, he won 4 majors. He achieved so much success early on in his career. Does he have that edge still to really be this killer that I think we all want him to be? Because in this generation of golfers in this decade, you're right. He's been probably the only guy that we've seen that can touch, Tiger's dominance. Just, you get on this massive hot streak, tournament after tournament after tournament. So I don't know. I mean, Harbour Town's not really a golf course for him. Kind of like, with what I said about Bryson, when you take the driver away from Rory, when you ask him to dial it back off the tee, he's not as strong, but he's 11-1 this week. I don't have any desire really to,
Sean,
play him at all.
Yeah.
How old would you say Rory is?
That's a great question. Off the top of my head, I would say 26.
31.
Wow.
Turned professional in 2007. And I think a lot of what we speak of him is unfortunately because he, it's always bad to be the guy who follows the guy. And honestly, the fact that Tiger was so dominant for so long really bit some of these guys in the ass. Because if you look at how dominant Rory was for the period he was, and as you point out, he's still a number 1. He had a great season last year, and yet we want someone to be like Tiger. And I think it's a product of the fact that everyone works out, everyone is more dialed in. Like Tiger just hit the sweet spot. He was great. He came into the league at a time where he had a physical advantage. He worked harder. And now I think we're measuring everyone up against that, and it blew my mind when I saw how old Rory was, because I was like, God damn, I'm getting old, because I remember when he was the next guy, and then it was Jordan Spieth, and then it was Brooks, and I think the reality of this situation is golf's fucking hard, and Tiger might be the greatest player we will ever see because of the time he was dominant, and the
how long too.
The fact that he was winning golf tournaments by, dozens of anyway, I think unfortunately, I know you have a special spot in your heart for Rory. Yeah. You share a lot of things. You share your heritage of being Irish. You share your height of being 1.75 meters. And most importantly, you both lived in Hollywood. Did you know he lives in Hollywood, Northern Ireland?
Well, and he's
Hollywood actually, but
Northern Ireland, which is kind of the bad Ireland. As I like to point out on the golf podcast. All right, Steve, let's get to it. Let's start putting together a DFS lineup. We'll let you kick things off. Who are you going with first here?
All right. Well, my first guy is someone that I write about a lot mostly because I love his game, but he also plays in almost every single tournament, every single week. And that's Sung Jae Im at $9,700. He does a little bit of everything well. He has a really good combination of length and accuracy off the tees, a good scrambler, a really good putter, really good iron player. Those are all really good combinations at Harbour Town. He came back from the COVID break last week. Looked like he didn't miss a beat. Very quietly had a top 10 finish, would put up some really good ball striking numbers. So, a lot of similar attributes that you like to Colonial, you're going to like at Harbour Town. So I'll start my lineup with him.
9,700. Kramer, what are you doing?
Well, I'm just leaving no surprise. Let's start. The drip squad is going to start with the drippiest drip in the moment. And that's the man who spent social distancing. He spent the quarantine focusing on his business and his body. And unfortunately for me and the Kramer gang, our business is his body. Yeah, I of course I was going to start with him. Look at that picture. He doesn't even know how to flex right. That's the funniest part.
That is a weird flex. He's 10,700. I was very proud of myself because Steve has not put out any picks yet on the on sportsgamblingpodcast.com yet officially. And I have Sung Jae Im as well. 9,700. Very tight, efficient game. And coming off a 10th place finish, shot a 67 the last round. That's what I want. A guy like I think he got 10th, right within striking distance. 9,700, great value.
You don't have to sell me on the Koreans,
Steve, what's your second guy? Who's your second guy?
All right, my second guy is someone who was really in the weeds for a long time, and he made an equipment change over the COVID break, and he came back last week Colonial and was awesome. And that's Justin Rose at $9,200. I love what I saw with the TaylorMade's back in his bag. He had his best ball striking week since the Farmers Insurance Open last year, which was his last win. And that was actually the first week of that deal we had with Hanma. And the way he played last week after ditching the Hanma clubs, I don't know anybody who would want to actually buy those clubs ever again. I mean, he was awful for a solid year. So, Harbour Town's a ball strikers course. If what he showed last week at Colonial was legit, he definitely should be in the mix to get back in the winner's circle.
Love it. Kramer, what are you doing? Who's your second guy?
I'm all over the place, not in any sort of order, but I've been told by my people, Sean, now that the Kramer gang is growing, I have people, and I've been told that Mr. Hatton, hailing from England, has been hot. So I saw hot. He was actually one of the last guys I filled into my roster, sitting at 8,000. I know not much more than as you heard with my first pick. This is all about the drip. So I want guys in good form, and I fancy his current form. Sean, I'm scrambling trying to find my notes. Was it the Arnold Palmer he won? Is that correct, Steve? So
yeah,
hot. Let's go, Mr. Hatton, $8,000. I'm cashing this weekend.
All right. Next up, I got a guy for $9,500. Give me Hideki Matsuyama.
Okay, you told me you didn't see color, Sean.
This guy, maybe there is a possible trend here in my lineup, but I think he was playing pretty well prior to things closing down. He got second place in the Zozo Championship, tied for third in the CJ Cup at Nine Bridges, tied for fifth at the Genesis Invitational. He's coming back. I trust a guy like Hideki. His game fits this well. And as far as a guy who was probably, doing stuff in quarantine and won't come back really rusty, because I think this is his first event after the break. I think Hideki is one of those guys. 9,500. Lock me up for Matsuyama.
Can I ask Steve a question? Does this guy just disappoint? Like, he's the guy you take when non-majors are here, but he just disappoints most of the time. Like, his price point is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with Matsuyama is he's so good until you get to the green. And then once you get to the green, he is one of the worst players on tour. I mean, and especially on Bermuda grass greens like they had this week, he is particularly bad. So I was tempted to go with him just because of how good of a ball striker he is and how important that is at Harbour Town, but just I've been burned so many times by him in the past that I just he's got some repairing he needs to do to my heart before I pick him again. So, I mean, maybe he used the COVID break to be a little better putter, but I need to kind of see it first before I'm ready to start jumping in on him.
Who's your next guy there, Steve?
Well, my next guy is a guy who disappointed pretty much the entire golf DFS world last week. He was, I think, the chalkiest play on the board. And that's Webb Simpson at $9,000. It was a really uncharacteristically bad performance for Webb. You know, you think about a guy like Webb Simpson, he's a good iron player, a good putter, and he lost multiple strokes in those two areas over his first two rounds before missing the cut. He was a little better on Friday. And I think he's going to bounce back this week just because, you expect a little bit of regression to the mean, and Harbour Town is basically a golf course built for him. You know, it really depends, it relies on accuracy, good iron play, and good putting. So, I don't think he's going to win this week, but I think he's going to have a much better showing and be pretty useful for a DFS lineup.
Kramer, what are you doing here?
I mean, now what I like to do, right? After I get some drippy guys, I go for guys who just know the course, right? And
course knowledge, hashtag
Steve Schirmer, AKA part of the All Rise Joe Judge gang. He's going to agree with me that Matt Kuchar knows how to get around this course. And at the price point of 8,300, again, you're going to see a lineup. I didn't punt anyone. So Matt Kuchar, and you know what's funny here? He lacks drip so badly. I think he has drip. So Matt Kuchar, come aboard. We're gonna make forehead tan sexy again, Sean. He's gonna be dripping out on Sunday. Matt Kuchar.
Matt Cooch. It is fun to just say Cooch. I also took Webb Simpson, and I'll steal all of Steve's reasons for 9,000. You can't
copy Steve as he's giving out.
No, this was already put together. It's Webb, and possibly it was from reading his article. I think you may have already hinted at like in Webb Simpson to have a good round. Only 9,000. I think there's some value there. Give me Webb Simpson. A bounce back spot for my boy Webb. Who's your fourth golfer there, Steve?
All right, my fourth guy is probably going to be someone who's pretty popular this week, but just based on his form last week and before the COVID break, and just overall, the type of player he is. I'll go with him anyway, and that's Joel Damon at $7,500. He had great ball striking numbers before the COVID break and last week too. He picked right where he left off. He's an accurate player. He's a pretty good putter, good iron player. Scrambling is a little bit of an issue for him, but if he's as good with his irons as he has been, he's not going to miss a lot of greens. So he's been cranking out top 20s pretty much all season long, and I don't really see that ending this week, so I'll take him.
Like it. Kramer, what are you doing?
My next pick, once again, I'm digging in the number. I'm trying to find a guy. I don't know anything about this guy's drip, but I saw a guy. You know what I did? I saw with Steve's words about this course and how the driving distance is not going to be a valuable thing. So I said, well, what if I sorted the other way? What if I said, give me the shortest drivers and find some accurate guys? Steve, Abraham Answer. I'm digging deep. And I'll tell you what, I just Googled this guy. For the first time ever. And while he doesn't appear to be a guy with much drip,
dangerously low levels of drip,
there is a picture of him standing next to Tiger looking equally as stoic. So I'm going to assume if you can look like Tiger, you can act like Tiger. Drip on, my friend. Abraham Answer. And I think I pronounced that right. And I believe his price point was 8,000.
All right.
Can I say one thing about Answer?
Shit on it.
Sure.
Shit on it.
No, I'm not going to shit on it. I love the player. I think he's I think he's a great pick this week. What I'm going to say though is, if you were watching the coverage last week, they had, you saw the confessionals that they had the microphone where players just got in front. So they showed Tony Finau talking question. And I think he's like 6'2", 6'3". He's a tall guy. And then they went to Abe Answer afterwards. And I think he's like 2 feet shorter. He barely got up to the microphone. He is a short guy, but no.
5'7".
Yeah, I mean, he's actually a little longer than you think, but he's a very accurate driver, good iron player. He struggles a little bit on Bermuda greens, but he's got it rolling right now. So I like the pick.
All right,
5'7", Sean. That's gotta feel good. You tower over that guy.
Dude, I dominate him. $7,500. Give me Joel. How'd you, Damon? No, I'm kidding. I do have a guy for $7,500. This man, I think he's helped me a number of times when I played him at the right spots. Give me Byung Hun An, or as I just call him, Beyond. It's very simple. Strokes gained around the green in 2019. There's one man who dominated. That's on. He's only $7,500. I think his putting will come up huge here. Didn't have an amazing effort, tied for 60th in the Charles Schwab Challenge, but he had, he had some issues, little inaccuracy off the green, or off the tee, so that's a little dangerous. But I think the putting is going to save him, and I think it's worth the risk at 7,500. Steve, am I crazy for playing on here?
No, because my next pick is also Byung Hun.
Oh my God!
So now Steve's copying me.
But I'm going to more articulately explain why he should be a good pick this week.
Okay.
So you actually have it all wrong. It's
All
his
right.
putter. It's his putter that's awful. That usually holds him down.
Oh,
he's
really?
he's one of the worst putters on tour. I mean, he's exactly like Hideki Matsuyama, just great ball striker. But once you get him on the greens, he is. You have no idea what you're going to get from him.
Well, so then real quick, what does strokes gained around the green mean? Is that not good putting, or is that chipping then?
That's chipping and scrambling.
Yeah, see, that's what I meant.
Yeah,
that's what I meant.
So that's an interesting comment. So last week he had a horrific ball striking week, and he was horrific around the greens too. And that's really uncharacteristic for a guy like Byung Hun An. I think that's going to reverse course this week. I think that's going to regress a little bit to the mean. Now the putting, while I said with Hideki that he's not very good on Bermuda greens, I mean, Ben On is a terrible putter, but when he is competent, it's usually on Bermuda. So I'm going to gamble a little bit and hope that maybe he can find a little magic on a putting surface he's a little more comfortable on. So, and I think at that price point there's a lot of other chalky plays around, the high to mid 7,000s. And that's a nice, I think, contrarian play just based on how we did last week.
Kramer, now that my pick has been vindicated by Steve, what are you doing?
Well, again, questionable drip here. Game matches. He's a bit old. Jim Furyk, 7,100. I would imagine his game matches this course based on what I remember of Jim Furyk. And, again, 7,100. I didn't want to have to dabble in the 6,000s this go about. And so I this is my cheapest guy. I don't really have much else to sell. I had to fill out the roster.
I also had Jim Furyk. We mentioned I think
so. You're copying me and Steve.
Steve had it up there at the top. It's perfect for those old guys. And Jim Furyk, not super old, but 50 years old. And maybe the distance isn't there, but the accuracy, the tightness can help him carry a decent score.
I did want to ask Steve a question because I had a potential fill-in who I think may have a bit more drip and maybe fit the squad a bit more. And that's a guy by the name of Gooch.
Also matches up with Cooch.
Taylor Gooch.
I mean, he had a little bit of a run last year. He had I think he's strung together like 3 or 4 really nice ball striking tournaments in a row. He's kind of irrelevant now. So I mean, he's not gonna be very highly owned. I like the play of Furyk better than
I just saw the Gooch name and it felt like it went with the drip squad.
All right, Steve, who's your last guy to round out to your RBC Heritage squad here?
All right. Well, I agreed with Kramer, just the fact that I didn't want to dip into the 6,000s either, just because I looked at who's down there and I didn't really like what I saw. So my last guy is someone who I liked last week at Colonial. He's starting to kind of find his sea legs on his rookie year on the PGA Tour, and that's Maverick McNeely at $7,100. He's a little bit like Sung Jae Im in the fact he does a lot of things, pretty much everything really well. He has a nice combination of length and accuracy off the tee, good iron player, pretty good putter. So, he He had a good showing at Colonial last week. I think he was top 30 on the leaderboard. I think he can have another solid performance at Harbortown.
Kramer.
Last guy. This is another in the same vein of Matt Kuchar, another guy who's had some success on the course, and that's Ian Poulter. Again, you know, if you look at my roster, typically I go with the couple big guys and just fill it out. This time, one big guy, one of the biggest guys to lead the drip squad. After that, Sean, 8,000, 8,300, 8,000, 7,100, 7,600. I left 300 on the table. I'm ready to cash that million. I'm ready to join the ranks of you. It's
DFS legends,
great DFS players.
Kramer, my final guy. And if you Google a photo of him, I don't know how he didn't have on this guy earlier. He's kind of like if Eli Manning had a mop top and just a big smile. And his name's Bud Cauley, $7,200, coming off a what he had 2 under 68, got 29th place in the Charles Schwab Challenge. But again, the main reason I picked him was I went to the 2019 stats. Strokes gained around the green, which as we know is chipping and scrambling ability. He was second behind my boy B Hung On. And so a Bud Cauley at $7,200 felt like the right time to hop on the Bud train. And this guy just seems like a lot of fun, a fun guy to root for. His name's Bud. How could you not want to root for Bud in a golf event? Steve, am I crazy? Is Bud awesome?
No, I mean, I think my picks column is going to drop probably tonight or tomorrow. I listed out a couple guys you might want to consider for a top 20 prop, and he was one of those guys. You know, he stood out. He stood out in my stats database there of the prototypical type of player who would do well at Harbortown. He had a decent week last week, so he's definitely on my radar.
Love it. Let's close things out. What do you maybe throw in like a lower value guy to win it all, and maybe a couple props? What's jumping out at you right now over at mybookie.ag?
So, like I said, my picks column is going to come out probably tonight or tomorrow. So if you want the full gambit of everything I like, you can go check it out. But the one guy we didn't really talk about tonight, as far as one of the big favorites, again, he underachieved last week, but it wasn't quite as bad as what people have made it out to be. And that's John Rahm at 18-1. That's actually a really good price for a guy of his caliber. A lot of people think he's just a bomber, but he's a very versatile player. He's won on all different types of golf courses around the world. He's won on links golf courses. He's won on bombers courses. He's won on these narrow, tight, tree-lined Spanish golf courses, which kind of remind me a little bit of Harbortown this week. So I think he's a little underpriced this week, and I don't think he's going to be affected all that much by dialing back off the tee. As far as a longer
real quick, Steve, real quick before you get to that, I was actually trolling around the first round leader props, and I noticed John Rahm was one of the guys. He's still one of the favorites, but 33-1 to lead after the first round. That also allows you to maybe mitigate some of his, I'm too fat, I can't make it through 72 hole problems that he's had in the past. But yeah, no, I again, in general, I wanted to kind of hijack Steve for a second, because the first round props in general, like the overall leader, 22-1. So the favorite is 22-1. It seems like there could be some value there. Do you ever dabble in the first round leader market?
Honestly, I mean,
too much variance.
Yeah, I dabbled a little bit with just last week with Jordan Spieth, just on a gut hunch. And I mean, he played well in his opening round, but there's so much variance in golf that, I mean, you're going to end up seeing a guy who is maybe like 150-1 to 200-1 to win the tournament, just gets out to a hot start. There's really no rhyme or reason to guys who got the hot starts or not. So I don't typically dabble in it, but I mean, I think
real quick to cut you off there just for a second. First round leader, my play for first round leader, Jim Furyk at 100-1. Again, it's kind of crazy, but I think we've seen this before where old guys, they wake up, it's Thursday, their back's not bothering them. They haven't played 3 days in a row, and maybe he'll falter as the tour goes, as the event goes on. But I think that round one leader, we see the crafty old guys kind of sometimes pull it out and jump out to that crazy lead.
Yeah, sometimes, and sometimes it also depends too on if they have a favorable tee time. Like,
Yeah,
I mean, if a good place, if you want to do a first round leader prop, would be some of the place like the Open Championship, where if a certain draw of the tee times gets a lot of wind, you can maybe cut the field in half at that point and then focus on guys, you know, in a more favorable draw. But I mean, otherwise it's basically Russian roulette, those props. So a longer shot that I liked is a guy named Christian Bezuidenhout. He's 120 to 1. I mean, he's not very well known on the PGA Tour. He mostly plays on the European Tour. I mentioned that John Rahm plays well on these Spanish golf courses. Christian Bezuidenhout won a golf tournament at a place called Valderrama over in Spain last year. That's another tree line golf course, very tight. You know, it's less than driver. He played pretty well over in the United States in his debut on the PGA Tour before the COVID break. He had a good ball striking week last week, didn't putt so well, but when he was down in Florida playing those tournaments, he putted pretty well on the Bermuda surface. So, you know, he might be a guy that surprises on the leaderboard at the end of the weekend. And then as far as a prop goes, I'm going to go to a matchup prop. I already mentioned Joel Damon as a guy I like this week. Over on my bookie, you can get him at -130 over Jason Day. I don't know if Jason Day really wants to play golf anymore. He seems totally unmotivated ever since he won that major and got to world number 1. I mean, there was always some questions. There's been stories written about him in his childhood about how motivated he is, whether maybe he won his major and got to world number 1. And that's all that's good enough for him. I mean, for a guy of all that natural talent, he has become a really bad ball striker, especially with his irons. And he was really skating by for a couple of years with his putter, and that's not as good as what he used to be. So that's a bad combination for Harbour Town. I like Joel Damon over Jason Day, and that might be a prop that wraps up by the end of Friday.
Like it.
We like that. Cash in pocket, Sean.
Indeed. Kramer, throw out some winners for the people.
All right. Well, that's what I do. I just refreshed my page, but what I can tell you is one of the things I really enjoyed was I went over the top 10 market, because I feel like sometimes when you like, it's like if the guys you like in DFS that aren't gonna win the tourney, but they're gonna score well, maybe they can squeak into the top 10, top 20. So one of the guys I wanted to play both guys on the course angle, both Poulter and Matt Kuchar in either top 10 or top 20 markets. Kuchar is 4-1 in the top 10 market. Poulter is 7-1 in the top 10 market. And then if you look at the top 20 market, Kuchar is, I believe, like minus or plus 175, and Poulter is plus 270. So, you know, of course, familiarity, making the cut, things like that. If you want to, I've had some fun with these, kind of playing my DFS lineup in these top 20 markets. Because you can actually get that partial return. As far as a winner, Sean.
Yes.
You want me to hit bombs like Mr. Mickelson, or you want me to throw out some chalk for the crowd? Because
throw out one kind of like chalk you're playing, then throw out like the super low.
Well, I'm gonna reboot. I'll give out Kuchar as a guy because he's 40-1. I think it's a good range. But no, I'm gonna roll some coin on my man Bryson. I understand people are saying he's going to be disappointed this week. I understand that. I understand people are coming after him now because he's got the abs, he's got the guns. But listen, what state are they in?
They're in South Carolina.
South Carolina, I believe you can carry. You can legally carry guns like that. So he doesn't need a with permit. My man Bryson, 14-1 is the favorite. Matt Kuchar at 40-1 is going to be my like middle tier guy, and I'm going to throw out Tyler Hatton 50-1 as another guy. I'd probably throw a third guy in there too if you want to take Poulter. I'll ride with that same angle, but you know, spread maybe a third unit across those three guys. Yeah, I'm going to bet more on the top 10 and top 20 market this year or this week, Sean.
Well, in general,
this year too, because I feel like the past couple or last weekend, I did a little of that. I barely watched the tournament itself, but when I went and looked, I was like, oh, I cashed some of these. It wasn't like you lose all the guys who don't win.
Yeah, it's kind of like boom or bust. I do like one of the 3 balls. My boy Hideki. Give me Hideki at +150, beating out Dustin Johnson and Gary Woodland. A lot of distractions for Dustin Johnson, that South Carolina Hilton Head area. And who knows what he's been involved with after the quarantine.
Same with Brooks, right?
Yeah, those guys, they like to party a little too much. As far as long shots to win, I threw out the Furyk to win the first round. Crazy odds on that, around plus 100 to 1. Soonjae Im at 28 to 1 over at mybookie.ag. Love that. And then rolling the dice on my new friend Bud Cauley, 120 to 1.
Well, and I think you brought up, because I want to bring 2. What does Rappaport call him? Stickman.
Yeah, legendary Stickman.
Brooks Koepka, Dustin Johnson, heads up matchup. Dustin Johnson's -115 on the course. Of course, we know Brooks Koepka's like -5,000 off the course, but in this heads up matchup, Steve, gun to your head, who you taking?
Oh man, both guys have been really bad.
Yeah, that's why it's a hilarious match, and they're certainly going to be partying.
I mean, gun to my head, I think I'm probably taking Brooks because he is a little better suited for playing a style of golf where he has to dial it back. I mean, with DJ, I mean, he's not a young buck anymore either. I think he's like 35 or 36. And I mean, he might be washed now. Like I know he got the knee surgery in the off season, so maybe still trying to recover from that, but his iron play is really bad. His scrambling's bad. I don't think he has much distance as what he used to off the tee now. Like I don't know. He might be on the downside of his career. So I guess gun to my head, I don't like Brooks at all this week, but if I had to pick between the two, I'm going to take him.
Yeah. I didn't know Dustin Johnson was from South Carolina.
Yeah. And
he went to Coastal Carolina up in Myrtle Beach.
And that's even, you get back hanging out with the old friends, more trouble for Dustin Johnson.
Yeah. He's just to close the loop on, he's 35.
Ooh.
That's crazy.
Feels like he's a bit older than that. Steve, appreciate you calling in, man. That was awesome as always. Make sure you check out all of Steve's writing over at sportsgamblingpodcast.com.
Before we let him go, Steve, real quick, has your win total projection for the Giants gone up yet this summer?
Is it affected by all the guys who've gotten arrested this off season?
I've not seen anything.
What did I set it as
I don't remember.
Yeah,
I think my excitement that they didn't completely screw up their draft pick got me a little too excited. I mean, honestly, if they go 7-9, I think I'd be happy. There's still a lot of holes on this roster. At this point, I want to see Daniel Jones make progression. I want to see the offensive line do well. And I want Saquon to be healthy. If I can get those 3 things this year, that's going to be a win. And then next offseason, build the defense and then really get a legitimate team on the field there.
I'll talk to you. I'll get you more hyped up offline. Next time you're coming on, it's 12. It's 12.
I love to hear it, Steve. Get a legitimate team next year. Appreciate that. Appreciate that honesty. And that's how you know, Steve, he's not a bullshitter. No homer action there. Make sure you check out all his great writing over at sportsgamblingpodcast.com. Join our Slack channel just for the chance to hang out with Steve on Sunday. I'm sure he'll be checking in on the chat room. So go to slack.sportsgamblingpodcast.com. Steve, as always, appreciate it.
Thank you for participating in the Sports Gambling Podcast.
And for the Sports Gambling Podcast, I'm Sean, stacking the money green, and he is Ryan,
greatest golf writer on the old internet.
Kramer. Let it ride.